Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast presented by the Women in Propane Council, where bold voices, big ideas, and brilliant guests in the propane industry take center stage. I am Freddie Ridler, and we're diving deep into leadership that inspires, empowers, and transforms. And now, joining me in the studio is my incredible host, the one and only Miss Jess Balderston.
Thank you, Freddie. We are so excited for today's conversation. We're joined by Shannon Watt, President and CEO of the Canadian Propane Association, where she leads with a strong focus on sustainability, advocacy, and strategic growth. With a background in public policy and corporate sustainability, Shannon brings a thoughtful and forward thinking perspective to leadership in an evolving energy landscape. Shannon, we always start off each one of our podcasts with a simple yet complex question. What does leadership look like to you, and how has it changed over the years?
Well, first, thank you very much for inviting me onto this podcast. I love discussions around leadership. I love your podcast, all the things. And yeah, that is a simple and complex question. So I guess simply put, I think it's empowering others to succeed at a shared goal. But there's so many pieces to that.
I like that.
Shared.
The shared goal. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I picked up too, Freddie, right?
That's the first time I heard that one. We do a lot of these podcasts, and I'm always interested to hear how people answer that leadership question because it is. Everyone sees leadership a little differently, but yet I'm assuming when you say shared goals, it's almost like a team, right? You want to make sure that when you're working as a leader, that you have a team surrounding you.
Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite word is team. If you want to get hired by me, make sure you say team in your interview, and I'm in. I'm absolutely in. I come from a strong background of sports and specifically team sports, like since I was 5 and I asked to play basketball. It's influenced everything I do. It's really why I want to lead. I really want to bring a team together and all go towards some sort of common goal. Like, and that's where the fun happens.
That's awesome. So, on our podcast, and since you watch all the time, you know that Jess and I like to sprinkle in little fun questions before we ask the tough questions. So I'm going to hit you with a little fun question. Just answer whatever comes to your mind first. We love to hear it. Talking about sports, I love this because my first fun question is, before a big meeting or presentation, do you have a game day routine like athletes do?
So, I mean, I think it starts the night before. You power up accordingly. You pick out your outfit, you figure out your key points, and you show up. And I think I've had a mantra, which is be kind to yourself, right? Just show up and be kind to yourself, and things are going to roll. So, I think it's really giving myself a bit of grace in the morning, no matter how nervous I am or how concerned I am or whatever the worries might be. Uh, Give myself a bit of grace and then just show up.
I love it. That I mean that's key number one is to make sure you're there, right? And that's people laugh about it, but you can show up as a body or you can show up mentally. And I think that's where you need to focus on is yeah, sure I'm coming into that meeting, I'm coming in that presentation, I'm sitting at the table, but I need to be there. I need to bring value to that conversation. So that's great. So my next question for you, and Jess talked a little bit about advocacy. So my question is, when you look at, I'm sorry, as someone deeply involved in policy or advocacy, how do you lead conversations where there may be strong opposing viewpoints?
Oh, I mean, all the time. All the time. We just had an event on the hill with food truck being powered by propane. It was a great event. We had beaver tails. Come to Ottawa, I'll give you beaver tails. They're not real beaver tails. It's dope. And I had this conversation with somebody that worked in the government where he said, I don't believe in fossil fuels. It's nuclear all the way. And of course, I got my back up. And what I really try to do in these moments is lead with curiosity. It's so hard, especially when someone's got your trying to get you going, to just stop and say, okay, tell me about nuclear. How does this work? And then to ask questions. Well, how about in the north? Right? We have 200 communities that are off grid. Are we going to have a nuclear reactor in every single one of those communities? What does that look like? And so really try and listen and then find ways where you can find a common ground or a common subject that might actually develop into a good discussion as opposed to a he said she said situation.
I actually really love that. It's the leading with curiosity and almost like listen, ask the questions, and eventually you might lead them to a different conversation that maybe they haven't even thought about to begin with. So,
Yeah, there's also a piece around don't talk about it, do it, right? With conversations. So, somebody's like, well, that's impossible. It's fine. I'm just going to go do it. There's that piece around when you have really difficult conversations or people that are really opposing to you, then it's okay just to go show, right? I don't need to tell you. I actually just need to go show you.
I love too that you mentioned kind of like don't react right away. Like they're trying to get you riled up for a reason because they want to see the reaction. So that's where that listening kind of comes into play too, is take a step back, breathe, listen, ask the questions. And by the way, the next time you have a food truck powered by propane, invite Freddie and I because we'd love to join you.
We do. We have one in BC, in Victoria. They're doing Greek food, and it's at the legislature on May 25th. You're all invited.
Oh,
Awesome.
fun. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, my fun question is, if you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
Can I say I want to go with dancing, like maybe ballroom dancing or some sort of. I just love, and I guess this is back to that teamwork, that partner dancing. You know, when you see them work so well together without even touching each other, they know what they're doing, and they do it, spontaneously. So that level of being able to just dance with confidence and wow with whoever you happen to be with, that'd be amazing.
If they
Oh,
ever have a Dancing with the Stars propane edition, you could be my partner.
Yes. Are you a good dancer?
No, I'm
no.
not. I turn you
We might need different
down.
partners.
Oh, okay. I feel like that's like a really cool thing that we should kick off is dancing with the propane stars.
Yes.
I'm not going to participate, but if somebody wants to roll
I've
with
got a
that,
good
that's
polka.
listening.
I can do a good polka. It's my
There you
Polish
go.
side. I got this.
Shannon, when you first stepped into the CEO position, what surprised you the most about the propane industry?
Oh, this is a great question. I love this question. I think because there's a lot of family-run businesses and because it's such an industry that is customer facing, but it's such a welcoming industry. It is like a genuinely kind, caring industry. And I say that as somebody who comes from other industries. I don't know if everyone knows how special it is, this propane community that's out there, and just how lovely it is to be a part of it.
It is. I love, and I'm just making notes as we go along because these are like little inspirational boosts that I need throughout my days. I love what you talk about the caring family of the propane industry. I got into the propane industry over 2 decades ago. I didn't think I'd still be here 20 years later, and I am. And it's crazy because like you make friends all across the industry, and it's wild. Like when and Jess can speak for this too. When we travel, it's like family. You see your family every region you go to in the United States. That's family. And for you, Canada, we need to go to Canada more often, Jess, because they have food trucks there run off
Yeah.
propane.
You're
But
always welcome.
I know, but that's it's so much fun, and you're absolutely right. It's such a caring industry. So thank you for sharing that. So I have another fun question for you, and it kind of goes around maybe the athletic thing. We'll try it here. If you had a walk-up song every time you entered the boardroom, what would that song be?
Oh, that's a really good question.
You
I'm
know what
really
I'm
bad
picturing
at
in my
notes.
head? I'm picturing polka music now as you enter a boardroom. It's not your walk-in song, but
That is not my walk-in song. Um, you stumped me. I'm not very good at thinking of songs in the moment. I'd have to
That's
have thought
right.
about that one.
My guess would be something very high energy,
hmm
getting people off their seats and standing up and dancing and moving and
Yeah,
swaying and
I mean,
cheering.
um, I might pick Sandstorm.
Yep.
Ooh,
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? I think it's from the 1990s. It's got a real trance beat on it, right? Like
yeah,
Yep.
a more
Yep.
of a hard electronic beat to it.
yeah,
There you
I like
go. Now everyone is watching this Googling Sandstorm right now. Hope you all enjoy it.
that.
So my question for you, Shannon, is when you look at the next generation of leaders in the propane industry, what skills or mindset shifts do you believe are most critical for their success?
I think so. I see a lot of uncertainty going forward. This past year has been a lot of uncertainty. There's big challenges we're going to be facing. And so having someone that is adaptable, that's nimble, I think you also have to have a willingness to learn. So, bringing in that curiosity piece, because, who knew that I'd be talking about artificial intelligence so much, right? I couldn't have guessed that. And then I think the last piece as a leader is empathy. You have to be able to lead this team through uncertainty, and you kind of have to be tuned into how they're doing in order to bring them from point A to wherever point B might be.
Yeah, for sure. Leading with empathy goes a long way. Just putting yourself in somebody's shoes. Yeah, it's crazy. My fun question is, what excites you the most about the future of the propane industry?
Ooh, great question. So there are so many new technologies out there. There are so many opportunities and possibilities. I think in the Canadian context, um, there are just these new initiatives around reliability, energy security, this understanding that propane is important for all sorts of sectors. And so the opportunity to really showcase propane going forward, right? We've been really reticent to promote ourselves. And I think that's one of the biggest changes we've seen in the industry is that we can't just sit back and rest on our laurels. We'll be regulated out of the economy. We need to step up and actually showcase propane, right? People don't understand. Like we're in everybody's backyard, and yet nobody thinks about us.
It's almost like we have to toot our own horn sometimes. And for some people, that's very difficult to do, but we all have to remember that's something that we have to advocate for. You set me up like perfectly with your answer for my next question. So, my next question is, your role involves a lot of advocacy in our industry. How do you effectively communicate such complex issues to policymakers and to the public so that it makes sense for them and they get a clear message across?
Yeah. So that's the game. That's entirely the game. And I wish I had the easiest solution, but I don't. I mean, the truth is, you have to try so many different ways, right? I have a great team with lots of ideas. And so we do, one pages and brochures and detailed reports. We have, databases full of data for the ones who really need to dig in. We have beautiful visuals. We do audios. We do it all. So the truth is, your audience is so diverse that you have to kind of communicate in all these different ways. And hopefully you find something that kind of hits somebody. They actually kind of get that point and are able to respond to it, but might take numerous touch points, numerous different ways. It's a long and arduous process, but can be creative and fun too.
I got a question. So, and this isn't on your list, so sorry I didn't ask you this one beforehand, but you kind of brought up a good point because I think even people in the United States have the same problem. How do we make it exciting, right? So, looking back in the last like year, 2 years, 3 years, what's one of your biggest accomplishments or something that you've done that said, "Wow, this actually worked. People are listening." Like not everyone, but we have a good chunk of people listening to what we're saying. How do we get this to grow? What did you do?
So I would pick our renewable propane piece. And so when I first came in, I said, we would actually delve into this quite deeply if we could. And so we published a report on renewable propane to show how you could do it in the Canadian context. And then the next year, a lot of my members, about 4 members, came forward and did demonstration projects, right? So we're like, hey, yeah, right. So they brought in renewable propane and RDME and said, hey, we can do this for crop dried, for municipalities, for fleets. And then the year after that, we started getting renewable propane in Canada made into market. And so it was this like change over time. And one, I love this industry. You challenge them and they step up, right? And the two is like, let's do it, right? Getting on the path and moving forward. And everybody just came along, and it's been a great accomplishment.
So how do you get, sorry, I'm just full of questions now. How do you get those people to like go with you and follow along and keep the momentum going? Because sometimes when you have a really good idea, if you don't have a good backing and people don't keep it going, it can kind of fade away? Because you said you had how did you keep the renewable propane going? And
I mean, that's a great question. One, I think it is an indication of this industry. So nimble and innovative, willing to take on challenges. So I think one is the sector itself. I don't think it necessarily works in other sectors. And then two, I think the fact that we started with a fairly strong foundation with the research, right? And then tried to build on that and tried to push a bit more. And then I just had members who were like, you know what, I'll try. We've got an idea. And then, if there was an inkling of interest, I throw all my staff at them, right? Staff and resource, what do you need? We'll make it happen, and supporting them in whatever that might be. But I do really think it's the industry itself too that is so willing to, try new things.
that's perfect. I like that. That's exciting. And I could just tell by the way you're talking about it, like you have that drive that people need. Like, hey, let's follow Shannon. We don't know where she's going, but we just trust her because she gets excited about something, and let's just see where it ends up. So I have a fun question again. And mine is I'm all about sports today, apparently. So if you had to compare your leadership style to a sport, what sport would it be and why?
Oh, this is awesome. Ultimate Frisbee. So I play Ultimate Frisbee. It's how I met my husband. I literally met him the first time I played and was like, oh, I like the sport. And now we're friends. But we still play. We still play Frisbee. In fact, we're going to the World Championships in England at the end of June. So him
Wow.
on his team, me on
Wow.
my team. But the thing I love about Ultimate Frisbee is they really they believe in this thing called spirit of the game. So you might have heard of it, but it's this idea. It's like this emphasis on respect and fair play and personal responsibility, and that because there's no referees, so you have to referee yourself, and so you have to be honest and you have to show up with integrity. And when someone makes a good play on you, you have to be able to turn around and be like, "That was a good job." It's fine. It's fine. That was really well done. And you learn a lot in that kind of a situation where, you're really ramped up. You've got all the adrenaline running. You want to win, and to turn around and be like, actually, that was a great play. And you get that point.
When you first said ultimate frisbee, I was like, where is this going? You just throw the frisbee and wherever it lands, that's what we're walking to.
I know it's an obscure sport, but like, I have played
Sorry,
it for
Jess, I think you
20
had
years.
something.
Yeah, I thought of a question too. Have you ever, because it takes personal responsibility, the integrity, the being honest with yourself, have you ever faced a member who did not have those traits that you were playing against in Ultimate Frisbee? And how did you handle that?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think with honesty, right? I think one of my strengths is that I'm not afraid of having hard conversations. And so absolutely, I've had to chat with members and be like, so that was inappropriate. How you spoke to me was inappropriate. What you did there was not correct. And how can we adjust for that? So, yes, I think I once got described as having a spine of steel on these sort of issues. And I agree. Like, there's a right way to do things. And I think it's important that you do it that way. I mean, it's not always right. There's a big gray area, but we certainly don't need the negatives, right? We don't need to do it the wrong way.
A spine made of steel.
Yeah.
I've never heard that, but I'm gonna steal that one, I think. Somehow I'm
I
gonna use
wasn't
that in
sure
the next
at
couple.
the time. I wasn't sure if it was a compliment or not, but it has
Yeah.
served me well. It really has served me well.
I love it. Yep. Makes you stand up straighter, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you had a question around how do you take criticism, right? And that's part of that integrity piece is, having that realizing, okay, when I hear criticism, is it about me or is it about you? One. And then if it's about me, being able to analyze and say, yeah, you're right. Or you didn't see the bigger picture, or oh no, that's not what that was meant to be, or whatever it might be. And I think having a framework where spirit of the game comes in, that idea of being able to take a deep breath and say thank you, is really helpful.
That's great. So this is kind of leading into my next question. So, and this is going to be a harder question, I think. So we'll see how it goes. Did you always want to be a leader growing up, or did leadership find you?
Leadership found me. And it really is that sense of you look up and you say, oh, well, I could have done that better. Maybe I'm going to, maybe I'll see if I can get into that position and do it better. And then, something happens and you see, oh, I think I could have done that better. And then you step up into that space. And so that slow realization that, oh, I did have the skill set. I do have the skill set to do these things. I can learn, I can grow, I can take on those positions. So it wasn't initially something I sought so much as something that once I was there, I was like, oh yeah, I'm taking that next step.
And not only like you recognize like maybe I could do that better, but we talked about teams too. And it's like, and I'm going to pull everybody with me so that we can all do it better too.
I always think of the 5 levels of leadership, I think by John Maxwell. And like the pinnacle leader is the leader that can create leaders.
Shannon, if you weren't in this career, what would you be doing instead?
I mean, I would be a ballroom dancer professional.
Obviously. Oh.
That feels obvious to me.
That's
They're going to
amazing.
get one thing out of this watching this and be like, Shannon must be a really good dancer and she plays
No,
Frisbee.
I'm not. I mean, a dream to be in the WNBA, right? If I was a little bit taller. Yeah, I think, and of course, a little bit younger, that'd be something that I think I would love to have experienced.
That's amazing. I like it. My next question is, what habits or routines help you to stay grounded and effective as a leader?
This is a great question. I think often touching base with my staff one-on-one, right? Figuring out how things are going with my staff, touching base with my chair on the board. But for me personally, it's finding time for reflection. So reading books and articles, taking time to actually, develop strategies or think out how things would go. And then on top of that, I have a leadership coach. So when things get challenging, she's the one I approach and we sit down and we, discuss the issue, analyze it, try and figure out some way forward or messaging or things that I might need to do. And I find, well, she's an expert in leadership. She's constantly pushing herself and learning. And then I get to hold on to that sort of expertise and learn more from myself.
Wow. I want to touch base on that a little bit more. How did you come to find a leadership coach, or what made you kind of go that route to reach out to somebody?
So I had a previous employer who thought that all the leadership teams should have their own leadership coaches, but that we couldn't choose ours. And I said, actually, I already have one. And I didn't at the time. So I quickly went and interviewed about 3 people and really connected with this one woman. And it was life-changing, right? She was able to, at the time I felt stuck in my position, and she was able to kind of get me to realize that I had a choice. And all of a sudden, when you realize you have a choice to be in a certain position or to leave, it makes it that much easier to stay there if you want to stay, but also to make change that helps you improve your situation. And I was like, this is life changing. And so that was probably 12 years ago, and I'm still with her.
What's the best? Other than that? What's the best advice she's ever given you? Like, if anyone's watching this right now, what is the best advice that leadership coach gave you? I'm
Oh,
sure there's
wow.
a ton, but anything that
There is,
stands out.
yeah, there's absolutely a ton. And I would say the best advice she's ever given me was to lead with curiosity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
right.
like the
To
4th time
really,
you said curiosity.
yeah. And it's so hard sometimes. It really is. But there were definitely moments where I was like, and I lost my cool. And she's like, were you curious at all about, what they might have been thinking or how come this? And I was like, oh, right. Curious. Right. Forgot about that. I just went straight to anger. So that constant reminder of, really being empathetic to who your audience is and then being curious about what is it that they're bringing to the table leads to better conversations and better leadership.
I think it's amazing because curiosity makes people ask questions. And if you're asking questions, you're learning, you're getting answers, right? So I don't think I've ever had a podcast guest talk about curiosity so much. This is definitely the highlight of this conversation.
I will say I want to give two other pieces of advice I've ever gotten. And one was from my dad, who said, treat the janitor as well as you would treat the president, because sometimes they're going to be incredibly helpful, sometimes the most helpful of anyone. Yeah. And then the last piece of advice was from a parent, and it was near the end of my basketball career, who said, if it's no longer fun, it might be time to quit. And at the time, I was really offended. And then about a week later, I was like, oh, absolutely right. And I take that to heart.
That's fun. That's exciting you said that. Jess and I, we talk about this podcast all the time because this doesn't feel like work. This is extremely fun. And we said that as long as we're having fun doing it, we'll continue doing it. But if it starts to feel like work, we have to change it up a little bit. And so that's exciting. So I have a fun question. I'm sure you've coached before. So you played sports, but you also coached. If you can share, and if it's okay to share with this audience, what's one of the craziest moments that you had to witness coaching a team?
I mean, I have coached since high school, at the competitive level, at the recreational level, all the levels. I've seen it all. I've had a kid pee their pants. I've had a kid in the middle of the soccer field picking flowers for their mom. I think probably one of my most memorable lessons was it was cross country skiing, and we were at a new park. And I had a bunch of 8 and 9 year olds, and I had a map with me, but it had snowed a lot. And we went out for a hike, like for a ski, and we ended up on an expert trail. And we were deep in the woods. And these were kids that were not experts. And we had a long slog back, and we had hills that were so steep going up and down that I literally would just throw the kids down and hope that they didn't crash too much at the bottom. And there was another coach and I, and so she was at the front, I was at the back, and we had this girl at the back who was just really afraid of skiing. And so, this is a big deal that I have now taken them on this expert level terrain where we are flying down and then working so hard up. And I had to text another coach that was back to say, we're going to be an hour late. Like, we are deep in the woods. But she was such a trooper. She did it, and at the end, she was so proud of herself that this was big. She'd never done terrain like this ever before, and she felt very accomplished. And it was this real accomplishment of the entire group that we had made it through this expert level trail and made it back all in one piece. Nobody injured, lots of fun, plenty of snacks and water to get home. But yeah, it was a great lesson. But I wouldn't do it again. Like, I don't recommend it. But since we were in it, we made the best of it.
Yeah, hopefully she remembers that because it sounds like a very monumental memory to have in your life to say, if I can do this, I can get through anything.
And when you're in the thick of it, that there's no direction except going forward too. Like you have to do it, so you might as well keep going.
So my last question for this podcast is going to be this. So we talk about mentorship, we talk about leaders, we talk about being curious, adaptable, empathy. So the Women Propane, they have a really good mentorship program called the Knowledge Exchange. I like to plug it on this podcast because it's a very good program, whether you're a mentee looking for mentorship or you're a great mentor that can help out some mentees. What advice would you give someone stepping into a leadership role for the first time?
I think know yourself, right? Know your strengths and know your weakness. Know your value, right? What are you bringing to the table? Are you bringing a strategic mindset? Vision? Are you bringing empathy and an ability to manage? Right? Know what you bring to the table. You might need to know what your weaknesses are, but that's okay. You can work on those or complement them with other staff. But really, that sense of know thyself, and then this other piece that leadership is a journey. It's so important to always be working on your leadership, because frankly, I see it in myself. When I stop working on my leadership, I feel like I start sliding back. I don't have those skills and those responses really honed and in the right places. So leadership is a journey that you have to continually work on.
It really is a mindset and a practice that you have to constantly pay attention to. I also want to kind of tie it back to something you said in the beginning is you need to know your value, but you also need to be kind to yourself Because I think when people do that self-reflection a lot, it's difficult if you're just starting to do it. So that reminder to be kind to yourself, but still be honest with yourself as well, too, is great points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an only child, and I was born with a lot of confidence, let's say. So I often forget that, to tell, especially women, like, find your confidence, right? Elbows out. It's, sort of a basketball saying, but take up space. It's okay as a woman to take up space. You deserve to be heard. You have value. Don't let others speak for you. Right. And I remember that early in my career, having other men speak for me and me being like, oh, what's going on here? I don't know. And realizing that, if I don't speak, somebody else will speak for me. So figure out your value, be confident, and really step into your role.
That is a great piece of advice.
Get big, get really big. I
Yeah.
coach basketball, and that was where it's tell the kids elbows out and get really big, make yourself big. Yep.
Yes, take up
I love
space.
that advice. I got that sports analogy, by the way.
A big thank you to you, Shannon, for such a thoughtful and engaging conversation. We truly appreciate you taking the time to share your perspective with us. It was a pleasure having you on Through the Leadership Lens, and we're grateful for the insights that you brought to our audience. Thanks to everyone listening. We know you're walking away with something valuable from this conversation, and we'll see you next time.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast proudly presented by the Women Propane Council.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, download, and share it with a friend or colleague.
And if you want to learn more about Women in Propane, connect with us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram,
or visit us online at www.womeninpropane.org.
I'm Freddie Ridler.
And I'm Jessica Balderston. Thanks for listening.
And keep leading with purpose and vision.